Today we're studying semicolons and colons. Now I want to leave a link under the video, I will leave a link under the video to Bristol University's website because they have some great exercises for semicolons, colons and other forms of punctuation as well, commas, really good exercises. So I hope I can explain how you use them so you can go and do the exercises and improve your understanding of these two punctuation marks. So the colon, first of all, we're going to look at that. The main difference between the colon and the semicolon, and of course today I want to contrast the two because I think in a few situations it can be quite difficult to choose between the two, and in some situations I believe both are possible. But the main difference, well, the main two differences: number one, the clause before the colon must be independent. So only the first clause has to be independent with the colon. However, with the semicolon, there must be a clause before it and a clause after it, and both clauses must be independent. Both clauses must stand alone. Now what I mean is that both clauses must be okay as a sentence on their own. They must stand and make sense on their own. So let's have a look at some examples down here. If we look at this one, for example, which is direct speech, which is one situation when we use the colon, the teacher would say, "Do your homework." Now this is wrong, why I've put wrong here, so I don't want you to copy this down as a good example of the colon. It's not correct because this clause is not independent. You can't just say the teacher would say. It's not possible. So we need to change this one to, for example, the teacher would say the following. And then it makes sense as an independent clause, and you can use the colon and use it as direct speech. Okay? Secondly, the words after the colon, with the colon, they must explain, conclude or follow from the main clause. Okay, so this is usually an explanation of the main clause. That's what the colon says. It says that what follows will be an explanation of, or a definition of, the previous sentence. So if we look at A, there's only one thing I loathe. What's that? It's impatience. This defines the one thing that I loathe. Okay, and notice that this makes sense on its own. Yeah, it can stand independent. There's only one thing I really loathe. That's okay as a sentence. So this is a good use of the colon. This is correct. Or as in B, we had two options: pay the money or suffer the consequences. These are the two options, so it's defining the two options. But we had two options is okay on its own. It makes sense. We've got a subject, verb, object. It's good. Here though, we've just got a list of two things, and so there are three main situations when you use the colon. You use it in direct speech, providing that, on condition that only if the clause before the colon is independent. Okay, if it's not independent, if you want to say the teacher would say, that's okay, but you'd have to say the teacher would say, comma, do your homework. The comma would set off the direct speech. But if this is independent, we use a colon. Okay, we also use the colon in lists. The recipe was eggs, flour and milk. Now I hope you're immediately saying, Dave, that's wrong, because the recipe was is not independent. You can't say the recipe was and think that that's a sentence. It's not. So you need to say the recipe was the following, or the recipe included the following ingredients. Something like that. The recipe included the following ingredients. And then it stands on its own, and so we can use a colon. Okay? Now the last one is also wrong. You cannot say pancakes are made from, colon. That would be wrong. You'd have to say pancakes are made from simple ingredients and then put the colon, yeah? Eggs, flour, milk. Eggs, flour and milk separated with the comma, as always, and I've even included the Oxford comma there. Eggs, comma, flour, comma and milk. Okay? So make sure that you're using the clause before the colon is independent. Semicolons have two rules which I've put here, and I want you to contrast them with the colon, or to compare them and see the differences. So number one, both clauses must be independent with the semicolon, not just one clause. Secondly, the second difference is the second clause offers additional or contrasting information, whereas with the colon we explain the first clause. With the semicolon we offer some kind of additional non-essential information, or maybe some contrasting information. For this reason, the semicolon very often replaces any of these words. It can replace any of these words: and, but, nor, yet, so, as, or, for. Now these conjunctions, these linking words, these are called coordinating conjunctions, and that means that if they connect two independent, very important word, independent clauses, we need to use a comma with all of these coordinating conjunctions. Or we could get rid of the coordinating conjunction and just use a semicolon. So, I ordered lamb, she had a salad. This is a contrast really between the two, what we ordered. This is completely correct, good use of the semicolon, because this is contrast. And we could change this for I ordered lamb, comma, but she had a salad. Okay, so it's possible to just get rid of that but and use a semicolon instead. It's possible to replace a coordinating conjunction with a semicolon. But remember, please, that the two clauses must be independent. They must be able to stand alone. Otherwise, you don't want a semicolon. If they can't stand alone, you usually need to use just a comma or something like that. So please make sure that they both are independent clauses, and that they should really replace one of these words, this semicolon. So look at my second example. I'd love to visit Italy. I've always loved Italian food. We could change this one for as, couldn't we? We could say comma, as I've always loved Italian food. And so with a semicolon you can take out that coordinating conjunction and just use a semicolon instead, or you can use the coordinating conjunction. It's your choice. Okay, lastly with the semicolon I wanted to add about these words: otherwise, however, moreover, therefore, nevertheless, accordingly, consequently, instead. Now, we can use these to connect two independent clauses with a semicolon. For example, we didn't go to the museum, semicolon. Instead, comma, and notice I've put a comma down there because in these examples you always need to remember the comma, the second comma. Instead, comma, we went home. Or, 3 students came to the lesson, semicolon. However, only one was prepared, and I've still got a comma there. However, comma, only one was prepared. So it's another use of the semicolon. But still, notice that all of my clauses are independent. They're able to stand alone in a sentence. And that's very important. Now, sometimes you have both clauses are independent, and the second clause kind of seems like it explains the first clause. And I think in these cases, sometimes you can see it as an explanation, sometimes you can see it as additional information. In these cases, it's debatable. I suppose it's what you want to focus on. If you want to focus on addition or contrast, definitely use the semicolon. And if you want to focus on the explanation, if that's the meaning you want to convey, then use the colon. But very often, I think, with two independent clauses, we use the semicolon anyway. Okay, thanks for watching this lesson about punctuation. Please like the video, subscribe if you want to see some more lessons, because I'll do some more punctuation lessons. And if you have any questions, put them under the video. Thanks for watching.